Hi there. In this video, I'm going to go through setting up a campaign end to end. So I'll go through creating some landers, creating some offers with typical affiliate networks, and using a well-known traffic source, just to go through how everything pieces and ties together, and to make sure it's very clear how everything is connected. So first thing I'm going to do is create some offers. So let me go to pages and sources, then offers here. So I have two affiliate networks open here, Affiliax, which I chose just because it's a typical, it's using the Has Offers platform, which is very common, and ClickDealer, which is using the Cake platform. So many affiliate networks you use will be using these platforms, and the configuration is very similar between them. For landers, I'm going to be using LanderLab here. So firstly, let me create an offer source for ClickDealer and Affiliax. So let's use Affiliax. You can see I do have a template here, so I'll click this. You can see here that it has the data passings with fsub, fsub2, and so on. So whatever network or whatever offer source you're adding, the kind of number one thing you're trying to do here is template how you pass data to the links coming from this offer source. So if I go to Affiliax and I go to create an actual link for some offer, I can see here this kind of link generator. And if I go to add sub-IDs, I can see if I just put various details in here and click update, you can see here it shows me how it's expecting me to pass data. So it wants fsub followed by fsub2, fsub3, and so on. If I pass unique click IDs, like our hit ID, and add this, you can see it expects f click ID. So here in Funnelflux, I'm actually passing it as fsub5, but I could change this to f click ID. I think that was correct, yes. But then when I do that, I would have to change how I'm passing this back and the post back here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be f click ID like this. But we'll see that soon. So I'm going to save that as Affiliax2 and just save. And as for the postback and things here, all you need to do is fill out the tokens for this part, these parts here, but we'll see that in Affiliax in a moment. Okay, so I'll save that. Now if I go to Affiliax on the offer here, I want to figure out how I'll send conversion data back to the tracker. So if I scroll down, there's this pixel and postback section. Okay, so let's add one. I want to use a postback URL if possible because it's the most reliable. And here I need to put some URL. This will be the URL for Funnelflux because we're sending data back to it. So if I go to Funnelflux and go to settings, here is my generic postback URL. So let's take this, come in here, paste this here. We need to fill out these replace values with tokens that represent these values from the affiliate network. Revenue is pretty straightforward. It's usually just something like payout, which you'll find in here. Yep, payout. Put this here. TX is a transaction ID. It's up to you what you use for this, but usually something like order or transaction ID will do fine. Here we go, transaction ID. And then lastly, we need the hit. Now remember I changed it to f click ID instead of fsub5. So we need to find that. And here it is here. So it's exactly as I expected. Okay, and so what I want to do is go back to Funnelflux, to my offer source, find Affiliax2, and check that these tracking tokens are correct. Yes, this was correct for payout, this is transaction ID, and this is f click ID. So in your network or your offer source, you'll find these tokens wherever you find them there, and you want to come back and put them here. This is so that this templated URL is ready to go. So now when I run other offers with Affiliax, I just copy that, paste this here, and I'm good to go. Okay, so that's that added. That's my connectivity with Affiliax and the conversion tracking back sorted, at least at the offer source level. You can decide what you want to pass under these parameters. I would just recommend passing funnel, traffic source ID, and maybe campaign as a minimum. This is useful just so that the network can help with optimization if needed. For example, you're running traffic from many traffic sources. One of them is giving very low quality leads for the advertiser and they want you to stop it, so they can tell you which traffic source to stop. If you didn't send this data, then maybe they tell you to stop everything and you lose out on potential ROI, right? Because you have a campaign that might actually work, but they said turn it off. Okay, now let's get to adding an offer. So let's add this Affiliax offer. First, I'll create a new category here. Let's create one just for this video called test offers. Okay, I want to select the source as Affiliax2. I'll put the offer name, whatever this is. I can just copy and paste it. Okay, now for the base offer URL, what I want to do is just put this first part. So rather than putting all of this aff sub stuff here, I can actually get rid of it. So let's reset it back to the base URL. Okay, so it's technically just this part, right? And ignore this aff click ID. So I can just put this here, and the rest of it is going to be templated through this data passing, giving us this end result, which is what we want. So every time I make an offer for Affiliax2, I will just paste this base URL, which is the first thing loaded when I open this offer. I don't have to deal with any of this config here. I just let FunnelFlux template the passing using this offer source. Then for conversion tracking, whenever you're making an offer or editing an offer with Affiliax2, the postback URL will be conveniently here for you at the bottom. Okay, so let's save that. Now let's do the same with ClickDealer. So in ClickDealer, you go look at some offers, some example ones here. Open one of them, and comes up like this, and it has this section with get tracking links. So we should figure out, okay, how do we pass data to ClickDealer? So I'm going to go here and, to offer sources, and I want to add ClickDealer. We do have a template for it, so I'll load that and put it under affiliate networks. You can see here this template. So if we go to the offer, you can see they have sub-affiliate ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we can fill these out to see what the URL looks like. Let's use whatever creative they have here. You can see this is the base format, so it passes an affiliate ID and a creative ID. Then for all of these, and note here it says pass your subsource here non-unique values, so don't pass hit IDs or unique click IDs under this sub ID 1. They don't like it. But here I can put 3, 4, 5, and you can see the link structure. They expect you to pass S1 equals something, S2 equals something else, and so on and so on. So that is how we have it templated here. S1 funnel ID, S2 traffic source, S3 campaign, and S5 hit ID. So that looks fine. I don't need to copy this or do anything with this. But now we want to figure out the post back as well, right? So they have here on the offer itself the ability to put a post back, but they also have this Fire Global Pixel / postback. And if you go to the tools section, you can get to global postback and you can put it here. And this is generally going to be easier to do, right, than putting it for every single offer, assuming you're only using FunnelFlux for your tracking. So I'm going to save this for now, but I'll assume that you don't know these tokens, and I'll go here and get my postback URL and then come back to this in a second. So here I'm going to paste my global URL. I need to figure out the tokens for each of these. So for revenue, let's, and you can see the token list here, right? So price in USD is probably what I'm going to want, or price, it depends on what you want. If you're using USD for your costs in general from your traffic source, then it's probably going to be better to use this in case you're using offers in Euro and so on. I'm going to do that. Transaction ID, what could I use here? It's a very good question. TID maybe? There's lead ID, affiliate ID, transaction ID. I'm going to use transaction ID here, TID. And lastly, hit. Remember, I'm passing it as S5, so I'm going to want this S5 token here. Okay, so let's save that. Okay, there we go. So we are all good. Okay, so let's just double check the postback settings here under offer sources. So if I go to, where is it, Affiliate Networks, ClickDealer, configure tracking tokens, just double check that these are correct, and you can see they are what I used to create this postback in ClickDealer. So this postback here is correct, and this is going to appear on all of the offers that I use under ClickDealer. So now I'll go to offers, let's create a new offer. We'll go to ClickDealer as the source, put it under test offers. Let's take this offer here, and I'll just copy its name directly. Get rid of this perhaps. For the base offer URL, again, we're templating the data, right? So we only need the base part of it. And if we go here and we just delete all of this, you can see this is the base part. We have to pick a creative and a domain, and gives us this with our affiliate ID. So let's copy this, paste it in here, and you can see the end result is the URL that we want. And if you go down to conversion tracking, you can see the post back here for you for convenience. Okay, let's save that. So we have our offers sorted. Now let's create a lander. So I'm just going to create something with Lander Lab. Let's create a new, let's do a new category called Test Landers. Okay, and we can do whatever we want here. So I'm in Lander Lab. I'm going to just add a new landing page from a template. Okay, let's use ecom. I'll call this test lander for video. For the domain, I'll use gamer.site and golf, why not? Call this test lander for video. So Lander Lab is definitely what I recommend for hosting your pages, especially if you're quite new, because it's just very easy to work with. It's not currently integrated with Funnelflux, but you don't really need it because it's very trivial to add landers to the system. Okay, so this is created here. Let's skip this step and finish. Okay, and here we have test lander for video. Here is the URL. If I load this, you can see it loads this random page. Great. Okay, so I'm going to copy this URL, or I'll actually open it and copy it. Then here, I'm going to paste this link and put test lander for video. And that's pretty much it. I don't need to append extra data, but I am going to have to deal with the action links and the JavaScript tracking shortly, but we'll do that after we create a funnel. Okay, so let's save that. Now, let's create a funnel. So I'm going to create a new funnel group, call this test funnels, save and create funnel. Now let's create test funnel for video and save and open this in the editor. So now what I want to do is string together the flow of landers and offers that I want a user to go through. So I'm going to take that lander that I just created, test lander for video, and I'm going to take the test offers that I made. Wait, I named them specifically, right? There's this one, the brand new iPhone, and there's this desktop game. Okay, there they are. Okay, so all I need to do is connect the traffic node to this, and then I want these landers on action 1 and 2 to go to these different offers here. If I wanted to rotate them, then I could do that in a few ways. I could put a rotator here and link to that, and then I could, let me put this one here. I could do something like this, right, where I rotate between them. That's one way to do it. I could also just create a group with them. So let me delete these. What I could do is just click this group and add another offer to this. So add that iPhone offer there. So this is a single group node, and I can control the rotation within here, right? And just link to this node directly. But it's kind of up to you. I want to split them because I want action 1 on my lander to go to one offer and action 2 to go to another. So I'm going to discard that, and I'm going to separate these two specific actions. And there we go. That's my funnel. So the next thing I need to do, I need to edit this lander to use these action links here, and I want to put the JavaScript tracking on it as well so that I can direct link to the page without going through a redirect through this node here. So for this node, right, I can click it and I can select some traffic source like Bing, and I can get this URL, load it, and it's going to go to this lander. But you might not want to go through a redirect, you might want to directly link to this page. But if I directly link to it now, there's no tracking, so I need the JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is go to LanderLab, and I'm going to edit this, this lander here, open it in the editor, and we'll change the action links and we'll add JavaScript to it. Okay, here we go. So for the action links, if you click the lander, you can go to Get Action Links and it shows you them here. You can just use these default ones. You don't need to add these special parameters. In fact, I would not recommend adding these because it might lead you to expect it to always work in various situations when it might not. They're not overrides, they're actually fallbacks, and it's much better to use JavaScript and not need these parameters in the first place. You can also right-click on the actions here to get action link and get this here. So I'm just going to copy this link here and then use it in my lander. So here, let's find some link. We'll take this first one here, change this href parameter to action number 1. And then we'll change this one here to action number 2. It's quite easy. The next thing I want to do is add the JavaScript. So I'm going to go to I'm going to go to Settings and go to Custom Code. And you can see here you can put in head and in body. It's great. So I'm going to click on this lander. I could go to Get Links in JavaScript, then the JavaScript section, and get the header include and JavaScript here. This includes the funnel and node ID and the page, so it's JavaScript very specific to this funnel, declaring defaults for the page as being for this funnel. But I just want to put generic code on this page at the moment, so I'm going to go up here and open the Edit Lander dialog and get the JavaScript tracking from here. So I'm going to copy this JavaScript here, which this needs to go in the head section. So I'm going to paste this here. This is a global include that you can put on all of your pages, even if you're not tracking that page specifically with JavaScript. Like, you could just globally include this if you have some landing page system or e-com system which lets you do that. And then here I want to copy this JavaScript and put it in body. Okay, and you can see here, because of the syntax highlighting, that the page ID is stated, which is specific to this lander, but the funnel and node ID and traffic source ID, these are all commented out. So if I delete those, they become active. So the JavaScript ignores these. These are defaults that you can embed if you want to. So if you want people who organically visit this page to be attributed to a specific funnel, you can put the funnel ID here. If you want them to be attributed to a specific traffic source, you can put that here. But generally, you're going to be linking people directly to the page and be passing these parameters in the URL for the JavaScript to see and use. And the JavaScript will always use what's in the URL rather than using what's here. So there's a hierarchy there and a priority to what it will use. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that and save. Going to save this. Okay, once it's done, I'll go back to the dashboard. Okay, done. Back we go. Now let's click Publish just to make sure it's all live. Okay, done. Right, so now that we have all of that sorted, let's get through testing. So I'm going to save this, although I didn't really need to. Discard this. Make sure I've saved my funnel. By the way, when you save the funnel, it pushes updates to our edge, which does redirects, and it'll take a few seconds before everything is live, but it should be very quick. And remember to always save your funnel when you make changes and are testing things. Okay, so I'm going to test a direct redirect using the traffic node here. Let's just select some traffic source like Bing, copy this URL, open in an incognito window and load. Okay, and as we can see, it redirected to this page here, so we're all good. And if we go down to these links here, hopefully you can see in the bottom corner here that we have the action link 1 and action link 2. We can also see that this VID parameter is appended to them. This wasn't in the link that we pasted there, but it's in fact our JavaScript automatically doing this. So you should use our JavaScript on your pages, even if you're not planning to directly link to those pages, because the JavaScript has extra helper functions which are very useful. One example being that it appends this VID, or this kind of session parameter, to any action links it finds on the page. Now this is very important because it helps us avoid relying on cookies for almost everything. So if I click one of these links, it should load one of the affiliate URLs or the offer URLs. I'll just bring up my web developer tools with F12 so I can see this. So if I click this, you can see here what it loads. It's going to go to somewhere, to some page that didn't work, but that's fine. So you can see here it loaded my action link, then it redirected here to the secure cloud link, which is our offer, and you can see under the S5 parameter it passed this hit ID, which is what we would need the network to pass back to us later to tell us that that person converted. But I won't go into exploring all of this here for the moment because it's not that important. Okay, so final steps. Let's throw this into a traffic source. So I'm going to use Propeller Ads here as an example. I think I've already added this as a traffic source. If not, it's very easy to do. So I can just go to Pages and Sources, Traffic Sources, New. I can type Propeller. We have a template. I can put it under Pops, call it Propeller 2. Oops. And here you can just see the various parameters that we're passing. When you set up traffic sources, try to always pass something under the campaign parameter. This is or field. This is one of our reserved fields. Try to pass a campaign ID or name, because this will be used in the campaign reports that you'll see in a moment in FunnelFlux. The external field should be for any unique tracking ID that's used for conversion tracking or postbacks. In this case, from Propeller Ads, it's sub-ID. And then the rest, it's up to you to choose what kind of data you want to pass. So if I go to Propeller Ads and I go to create a campaign, I should be able to find all of these tokens here. You can see under target URL that it provides various tokens for me to add. Click ID here is one of them, but it's actually this sub ID here which is used for conversion tracking. If you go to tracking, here you can see copy this postback URL. They tell you the postback URL for Propeller Ads, and they tell you to send back visitor ID as this, whatever this sub ID token was, and payout, just whatever payout token to use. So these tokens can be a bit confusing between sources, so it's okay if this does create confusion. Rely on our templates and you can always ask us for help. But here I'm going to pass external as the sub ID, and then in the postback here I want to pass an affiliate ID which is unique to my account. If I go here, I will see that this affiliate ID is 57154, so I'll put that here, 57154. TID seems to be unique as well. For me it's 14723. Okay, so I'll put 14723. And then visitor ID equals external and payout equals payout. So that's all set up fine. Let's save this. Now I can go back to my funnel, which has not been closed. Click on the traffic node, get Propeller Ads 2 here. Now note, this is one point of confusion which a lot of people run into if they're experienced with other trackers. You don't need to save this URL. When you send traffic to a funnel in FunnelFlux, you can send it from any traffic source, from any campaign. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is go pick the traffic source that you want to generate a link for and copy it and go use it. You don't need to save these settings and lock in this URL or anything like that. It's all dynamic. So if I pick MGID and I save, then I click back, you'll notice this form is reset. This is one thing which we get a lot of questions about. So just note, you don't need to save anything here. Just pick the traffic source. That changes the IDs that are here early in the link, and that's it. So I'm going to copy that URL, go to Propeller Ads, go to create a campaign. And for the, let's put test, For the URL, I would just paste this, and you can see here it's detecting all of the tokens that I'm using. Here it calls this click ID, but I think that's for this token here. Let's click. Where did it add that? There you go. It added at the end there as click ID, sub ID. So it's a bit confusing. They put this token as click ID, but it actually injects sub ID. So I'm not quite sure why they create that confusion, but it is what it is. So there's our link. We are good to go. Now, if you wanted to direct link to your Lander and not go through this redirect link, what you can do is, first of all, you have to select a page. You can't direct link to the traffic node because it's not a page. I can select this Lander, go to Get Links in JS, JavaScript. I have to select the Lander here. I can select Propeller Ads. If I scroll down, it has the JavaScript I need for direct page view tracking, but it also has this direct page URL, which I could use here instead as well. This is exactly the same in terms of these traffic source parameters here that I'm passing, which I'll just delete, and cost. The difference being we are directly linking to this page, and then we're passing the funnel ID here, a node ID, and a traffic source ID. So the parameters in the URL have changed a little bit versus our redirect link, but all we are doing is basically directly linking to the page and passing data in the URL for the JavaScript on our page to pick up and use, both to track the visitor and all of their data, but also to tell the JavaScript, you know, exactly which traffic source this is coming from, exactly which funnel, and so on. The data we pass in the URL is authoritative, and the JavaScript is going to use it over and above any of these parameters which might be embedded in it. Okay, so then I would submit this and go live, and that's pretty much it. So that's all you need for setting up your first campaign. I know this has been a somewhat long video, but I wanted to go through just all of the steps, tying everything together, connecting your landers to your offers, the JavaScript, your action links, connecting it to an affiliate network, setting up a postback, and then getting a traffic source set up. So hopefully this has been helpful for some of you. If you have any questions, let me know, and let's get started.